Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Touchline Talk with Odds Changer and SPK. As usual, I'm joined by the one and only football writer and broadcaster, Dean Jones, to discuss all the latest news and gossip from the world of football. Hi, Dean. Only one place to start this week, and that is at Arsenal, where the dreaded captain's curse has struck again. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has had the captain's armband stripped from him after another breach of discipline. What's the future hold for Aubameyang now at Arsenal?
It's pretty bleak, I think it's fair to say. It's bizarre, really, that he's gone this far adrift from where he was. Think back to when he was scoring in the FA Cup final and stuff. And, we're always talking about Aubameyang. He gets into this certain area of the pitch, he cuts inside, he sweeps it into the corner, and nobody can stop it. And you thought, wow, this could have Arsenal going in a really good direction. And just hasn't been able to carry on that momentum and his attitude, perhaps. Certainly some of his decision making hasn't been up to scratch when it comes to reaching the discipline levels that are expected by Arsenal. Now, you can make whatever it is of, he's got to go home and see his mum who's not well. Like, you've got 24 hours to do that and get to France and back. It's not easy. It's not an easy task, and you could understand why he would go. But I think the most important factor in it is that this wasn't the first time he's breached those rules, and I think that's more of the point. Thinking back, other instances I've heard of him breaching rules, it was poor, to be honest. Like, I've heard some details of stuff that's happened, and I'm like, if that's true, then that's absolutely ridiculous. And you can understand why Arteta would become more and more frustrated, because he's the highest paid player, he's the captain, he's supposed to be the talisman, top goal scorer, whatever else. Like, all their season almost hinges on Aubameyang having a good season. Yeah. Actually, as it happens, they're turning out that they are better without him almost at the moment. So I think that his absence from the team has actually led Arteta to find a rhythm and pattern to this side's play that actually works. And now he's like, okay, I'm not actually afraid to make this decision because we can go on without you. The problem they've got is offloading Aubameyang. How on earth do you find a buyer for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang unless you're going to kind of pay towards his wages, because he's not going to get this kind of money anywhere else?
No, obviously, could you see him move on in January? There's been talk of maybe Barcelona being interest. Obviously, we've had the sad retirement of Sergio Aguero. Barcelona are in the market for a striker, but again, they will struggle to sort of anything financially there with the situation at the Camp Nou right now. But could you see that as a possibility, or maybe elsewhere?
I don't really know. I mean, Barcelona are being linked with so many players at the moment. Like, almost everybody is linked with Barcelona. And I don't understand how or why. Like, from what I understand, if they can buy anyone, then they've got a budget of about 30 million, was the last I heard, in terms of fees. And in terms of wages, we know that they don't have the wage structure that they previously had. The whole Messi situation and why he couldn't stay. Like, it doesn't make any sense that Barcelona will be able to sign half the players they are. And particularly Aubameyang doesn't seem to make any sense to me. So we'll see, what kind of ambition Barcelona can actually have in this window. They're being linked with Pulisic and people like that as well, and I don't really see how this is all doable. But they've got to come up with something, because Aubameyang doesn't have a long-term future at Arsenal. We've seen people fix issues before. Like, think of how bad things got for Xhaka when he was there, booed off the pitch and all the rest of it, and it wasn't the end of his Arsenal career like we all expected it to be. He worked his way back from that moment. So there is a way back, but it's a long path back, and it takes the right attitude. It takes some amazing performances, probably. And it takes Aubameyang to really want it. Does he want it? We'll soon find out.
Yeah, with that in mind, with possibly his days numbered there, Arsenal will be looking a long-term replacement for Aubameyang. Any names in the frame you've heard? Obviously, Dusan Vlahovic of Fiorentina seems to be among Arsenal's top targets to bring in a new striker, because we all know they are probably in the market for two strikers in the summer, with a few probably leaving in Nketiah and Lacazette, and now it looks like Aubameyang could be out the exit door as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They're kind of having to really focus their search now for what happens for this front line and what's the vision for how it moves forward. Vlahovic 100% is one of the players that they are interested in. He's available in January if you put forward 100 million euros. I'm not sure Arsenal can do that in January. At the end of the season, if he doesn't go in Jan, he'll also be available, probably at around 65 million euros. which is more doable, and it probably makes more sense for Arsenal to do that. They'll probably be in a better position then, as there's more chance Aubameyang will be gone and Lacazette will be gone. But from what I'm told, Vlahovic isn't sure that Arsenal's the right fit for him anyway. Vlahovic is undoubtedly one of the best young talents in world football. His finishing ability is absolutely unbelievable. His goal scoring record at Fiorentina over the past year is also unbelievable. Yep. And he's going to have better offers than Arsenal. That's the problem that they've got. As such, Arsenal know that. Like, they know that at the moment they're not in the Champions League. They're not in that top tier of clubs. So if Vlahovic gets a better offer, say Juventus, then he'll probably take that step instead. And that's why they've got players like Alexander Isak, Real Sociedad, and players like that are also on the radar. But basically, they're having to narrow it down now. They're having to whittle down a list and figure out, who they're going to watch over the coming months and who's actually going to fit. That's what's most important right now, right? Like, Arteta's got the vision. When it's all flowing, when everybody's in that rhythm, it's brilliant. We saw that goal they scored the other day, going one end of the pitch to the other.
Goal. It's
as good as anything we've seen in the Premier League all season.
Yeah.
They've got to find a consistency to do that, not every week, but season after season as well. So it's a big job for them to make sure they get it right.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a big turnover in the striking department at Arsenal over the summer, maybe even January as well, if some offers are made. But another name probably was Calvert-Lewin. I think it's been mentioned with Arsenal. He maybe would fit the bill for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal going forward. But again, he isn't going to be cheap. Everton would demand big money for him, but we know he's had lots of injury problems this season, so he'll just be probably focusing on getting fit. But yeah. Big summer ahead for Arsenal in the transfer market, and unfortunately for them, another captain's curse has struck them, which they could have done without right now as well. So, always going on at Arsenal. I can't wait for this documentary behind the scenes of All or Nothing. It's going to be interesting. They seem to time it right with some big incidents always happening at these clubs. Another one we could focus a documentary on is Dele Alli, his future at Tottenham. Dean, seems like every transfer comes around right now. We're always talking about Dele Alli. We had it last winter transfer market. We thought he's possibly on the move to PSG. It seems this January he will be allowed to leave Tottenham. Tottenham are willing to let Dele Alli leave either on a permanent basis or probably a loan's more likely right now. What's your latest take on the Dele Alli situation, and how far has his star fallen, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad, to be honest. I mean, this is the third window in a row that Dele has been linked with a transfer. And that, to be honest, is, it's such a fall from grace for him. I mean, you think from where he was with Tottenham and England, like, shouldn't have been in this situation at all. But, things happen in football and you do fall down the ladder and you've got to pick yourself up and get back up there. He's had Pochettino, he's had Mourinho, and now he's got Conte, and just hasn't been able to convince them, as the managers are changing, that he's got the tools there to help their team. And that's the big worry, because 2 years ago, you didn't have that concern over him at all. So big decision for him now. What does he do? Newcastle obviously bang in for him. Does this make any sense for Dele Alli? Does he really want to go to Newcastle? Scrap him for every point, every ball, I don't see how that suits him or benefits him at all this season. Going forward, maybe, like, if Newcastle stay up, maybe it suits him in the summer, a move like that. But short term, I don't see why he's looking to do that. I can see that he would think, right, look what Jesse Lingard did when he went to West Ham. Let's find a team like that I can fit into. Maybe I know some of the lads in the team. Maybe I know the manager. Whatever it is, how can I find a fit for me that perhaps gives him a kick out the backside as well as anything else? It's really difficult. Like, I really do think that it's a gamble either way. Like, clearly it's not going to work out at Tottenham at this point, so he does have to move. But does he stay in the Premier League or does he go abroad? I think that's probably the first big decision he's got to make. Yeah,
could you see West Ham being an option if they don't go back for Jesse Lingard? Quite similar players, attacking midfielders. Could maybe David Moyes switch his attentions to Dele Alli if Jesse Lingard decides to run down his contract at Manchester United?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going for Jesse. So I was told the other day that as soon as the window's open, they are going to reopen negotiations on Jesse Lingard and see what's happening, because it looks like from afar that he's not going to fit in under Rangnick, and it looks like he's not going to sign a new contract. And if it's everything we believe, and I think they've also been, given a little wink that he is available, then I think West Ham 100% are going to explore that first. If Lingard isn't available, then yeah, absolutely. I think that Dele is the type of player that would suit West Ham, and that he should jump at that opportunity, because that's the sort of club that can breathe new life into him. They've got so much to play for. The style of play would suit him. I think Moyes would probably get more out of him. And again, going back to the Lingard example set, just go and do exactly what he did. Like, there's opportunities there.
Yeah, and
he's a different player, I guess, though, isn't he? Like, in terms of where he would play positionally, and West Ham might think they've already got players that can play that role, I guess.
Yeah, slightly similar players they've got probably in Ben Ramas and Fornals and people like that. But yeah, it's going to be a key month, January, it seems, for Dele Alli to choose where he does move. Tottenham seemingly just opening that door for him to go. So whether it's to stay in the Premier League or move abroad, he really needs to get this one right to get his career back on track.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's interesting. Like, a couple of weeks ago, I checked in on Dele's situation, and he wasn't upset by how things were going. He hadn't kicked up a fuss at all. He kind of had his head down and was just trying to focus on working his way back at Tottenham. And I was kind of told that there's nothing really to see here at the moment. Let's see how the next few weeks pan out. And here we go. A couple of days ago, Tottenham has decided that he can go. So that's literally the kind of time frame it can take for big decisions to turn around, you know. And he, for his own career, this has to turn out in his favour, because he's also got the World Cup next year that he'll be looking to get back in the picture. It's miles away from that at the moment. And look, England could do with a good Dele Alli. You know, if he's playing on top of his game, he could work his way back into that team. But at the moment, Gareth Southgate won't even be looking twice in his direction.
Yeah, we'd all love to see the real Dele Alli step up again, the way he was playing for Tottenham under Pochettino that time when they went close to winning the league, when Leicester pipped him to the title that year. Dele Alli was probably at his best then. But yeah, what happens with Dele Alli in this January transfer window? We mentioned, Dean, briefly there about Jesse Lingard and his ongoing situation at Manchester United. We're expecting a few departures at Old Trafford probably in this January transfer window. Anthony Martial, his agent, has come out and said that the striker is not happy at Old Trafford and would consider a move away in January. I know you're all across this story. You've written that Atletico Madrid could be possibly interested in Martial. What's the latest on his future?
Yeah, I mean, Atleti have touched base before on Martial, and it wasn't really doable at the time. Martial, again, I wrote a piece about a month, 6 weeks ago now, about how Martial was angling for a move, but feared he would be priced out of the market in January and would be stuck at United. And now, from what I'm hearing, Atleti obviously seeing that the quotes coming out from Martial's agent, they've also obviously heard separately from that about his situation, and are aware that he's looking for a new club. Now, I don't think they would be looking to spend the type of money that Man United would want for Anthony Martial, and as such, I think that they'll touch base just to see if there's any other way of working this, short term, long term, whichever it might be, whether that's loan, whether that's player exchange, whatever it might be. Atleti are kind of all ears to what could happen. They've obviously got a lot of attacking flair already at their disposal, which they're struggling to make the most of, to be honest. Yeah. But, you know, I think that they're also in the process of figuring out how many of those players are staying with them anyway. So they've really got an eye on next season rather than the second half of this season. But certainly Martial's somebody they admire, and they're going to look into it. And Martial will have other options abroad as well. I think it will be his most likely chance as he goes abroad at this point. There will definitely be Premier League clubs interested. Yeah. Whether they interest him is what I would be more intrigued by. He needs to go somewhere and build his confidence up immediately, I think. And that's what I'm told he'd be looking for. Needs to find the right club, the right manager, and get back to playing the style of football that he feels he's capable of.
Yeah, I'm sure Man United also would probably prefer Martial to go abroad in case he went to a Premier League club and started to do quite well. It wouldn't look too good in them either in that respect. Yeah. But maybe is the one here we're looking at, you talked about a player exchange with Atletico Madrid. João Felix maybe being one that Man United might be interested in. Could we see a João Felix, Martial possible exchange?
I mean, that would be huge. And I mean, João Felix has a much, much higher valuation than Anthony Martial, given his potential, the value he already held when they signed him, his age. João Felix should be in the Ballon d'Or conversation in future years. I don't think people are really talking about Martial in those terms right now. But João Felix undoubtedly hasn't taken off at Atleti in the way they would have hoped. Signed a long contract when he went there. Club's definitely being alerted to the fact that he's not particularly happy at the way the deal's worked out. If that is proposed to them, then of course they would be all ears to it.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that that's what Atleti have in mind in terms of a player exchange, because there would have to be cash involved, I think, from their end as well, if that was going to happen. But João Felix, definitely one of the talking points, I think, going into January. Liverpool starting to be linked with him as well. Not sure there's too much in that one at the moment, but João Felix he's always had interest in coming to the Premier League as well, and I think that's even more reason to believe that something could happen.
Yeah, top player, João Felix. And as you said, I'm sure all the big boys in the Premier League would take him if Athletic do decide to cash in on him. And the player would obviously be open to a move to England as well. Other departures at Man United, Edison Cavani possibly on the move. Talk of Barcelona for him with their search for a striker. Also Corinthians in Brazil being mentioned. Also Dean Henderson, Phil Jones, two other possible candidates to move on. It's going to be outs rather than ins at Old Trafford this January.
Oh, yeah. Has to be, really. I mean, they might sign one player, but it's not going to be, I don't think, of anyone of great value. It might be somebody just to fix things for the second half of the season. Maybe somebody who's on an expiring contract or something like that. Rangnick, obviously, is going to have some say in the running of the club going forward, but they're not going to be giving him huge money. I remember, as soon as he took the job, people were writing articles about him being given £100 million in the January transfer. I mean, that's not going to happen, You saw the United being wary about spending the money on Sancho over the amount of time they did, and they want value out of deals if they're going to go and spend big money. And obviously they have got an eye on situations like Erling Haaland going forward, just in case they can be involved in those conversations. So I think we have to be wary of ins coming in at United, but certainly there are players there that you've just mentioned that are don't have either a long-term future at the club or are just on the fringes and becoming frustrated. So they have to kind of get rid of some of the dead wood.
Yeah, it's one to keep an eye on during next month's transfer window is the exit doors at Old Trafford rather than the arrivals. I think with United looking to trim their squad and players looking to move on in search of first-team football. As we've spoken before, Dean, we are expecting Newcastle to probably be the busiest club in the January transfer window. It appears they are closing in on the signing of Atletico Madrid and England defender Kieran Trippier. Talks are ongoing between all parties in this one. He's obviously played under Eddie Howe before when Eddie Howe was the Burnley manager. And I think the key to this one is that Trippier can play right back as well as left back, and that's a positions that Eddie Howe is looking to strengthen, and he sees his versatility as a key addition to his plans to help keep Newcastle up. What's your latest take on Trippier and Newcastle?
I mean, I think it's a big step down for him. I mean, he's joined Atletico Madrid for a reason. He's gone to a club of, big Champions League pedigree at the moment, and battling for title in La Liga, winning the title in La Liga, and now he's going to step down from that to Newcastle, potentially end up bottom of the Premier League. Like that's a big decision for him to make if he wants to step from one situation, literally playing against the elite of Europe, to scrambling for points and trying to get, every moment you can to really matter. It's a big decision, and if Eddie Howe can talk him around, then fair play to him. I mean, I'm told the financial terms that Newcastle were offering are pretty significant, so that is helping their cause. I think that I read somewhere that it was pretty much done. I don't think that that's quite the case. I think that Trippier is kind of holding on, not completely committing, just in case something else comes along here, because there are a couple of other clubs, Man United included, that have sounded him out not to in the distant future, in distant past, about a move. And I think he would rather be towards the other end of the table. I mean, that's pretty obvious to say, but of course he would. So I think he's open to it. He obviously wants to come back to England. That's a big thing of his. So Newcastle have got a chance here, but if they get him, then it's an unbelievable get. And then it will also help them encourage other players to come as well.
Yeah.
That's what they've got to do. The first signing has got to be a big one, because they need to convince other players to come and join them as well, and show them that this isn't a sinking ship. We're going to get clear of this, and then we've got big things to come.
Yeah, it'd be a massive fill-up for Newcastle if they can lure Trippier to Tyneside in January. As you said, I think his desire to return to England in the Premier League is what's really driving this. That's what Newcastle are banking on, that can maybe convince Trippier to make the move to the northeast and get involved in this relegation battle as well. Also being strongly linked with Trippier's former Burnley teammates, James Tarkowski and Ben Mee. These two would be two good signings for Newcastle if they were able to get them in, both coming out of contract at Burnley in the summer. Obviously, might not be as expensive as they might have been if they were under long-term contracts at Burnley. Are you hearing anything else on Newcastle and what possibly they could do in Jan?
Just that they're finding it really difficult, really, that to narrow down exactly where they're going to have any joy in the market. And I think that, to be honest, they'll probably start turning to the foreign market rather than all the Premier League cast-offs that they're being linked with right now. I think that they feel that there are enough connections with the new setup that they can find some really good purchases from abroad, whether that's loans or buys. And I think that they're quite confident that those clubs would have no qualms in doing business. We talked before about the fact that there are a few Premier League clubs that aren't keen on helping Newcastle, and that's at the back of their minds as well. They don't want to get dragged along into certain situations. Say with Dele Alli, part of the fear of Dele Alli is that he goes, yeah, and they get so far down the line, and then Tottenham are like, no, he's not joining you. We're going to put him abroad instead. He can go there. He's not going to you. Whereas, I don't know, if they go for, I'm not saying they would get Aaron Ramsey, but Aaron Ramsey, Juventus would have no problem letting Aaron Ramsey go to Newcastle because they're not going to be playing against them. They don't really care what happens with them. Yeah. So that's another obstacle for them to come across. But yeah, I definitely think that their strategy is probably going to change. From what I'm told, they are starting to look more to signings abroad than they are in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's going to be intriguing whatever happens with Newcastle in this transfer window in January. They're going to be the most talked about club, considering all the money that's now available at St James's Park. And I'm sure there will be a few new faces for the Newcastle fans to look forward to by the end of that transfer window. Just moving down to the Championship, Dean, Newcastle's northeast rivals, Middlesbrough, expected to be one of the busier clubs in the Championship in the transfer window, as Chris Wilder looks to reshape and refresh the squad he inherited from Neil Warnock. Seems strikers are his main priorities to try and improve the squad, probably in the loan market. Dwight Gale from Newcastle is a potential target. Also, Florian Balogun at Arsenal, the young striker who's very highly rated, but it seems that Arsenal are willing to give him the green light to go out on loan as well. Are you hearing anything on Middlesbrough who they might try and do? From what I'm hearing, they're pretty confident of at least getting two strikers in, so it's going to be a big month ahead for them.
Yeah, I was just told actually that Marcus Forss of Brentford is somebody that they're looking at as well. Brentford are willing to let him out on loan in January. Big talent, and they've got big hopes for him in the long term. Brentford of breaking through, and they've had a lot of inquiries for him over the past year, and they haven't been willing to listen to any of them. Even Borussia Dortmund at one point were asking about him. Now, Middlesbrough, I know, are one of the clubs that are in the conversation about, potentially being a landing spot for him as he goes forward. He's only 22. He's also got offers, I think, from France and Germany to go in. So yeah, Marcus Forss is another one to look out for Middlesbrough, and those two guys you mentioned as well are in the frame. They're obviously going to have to have a reasonably big watch list here because there's a lot of factors that are kind of come into signing strikers, and ultimately, is there a bigger club out there that is going to eat these guys up? I mean, finding goal scorers in January is what everybody wants. So, like, whether you're seeking to make the playoffs, get in a title race, beat relegation, whatever it is, like, that's what you need. You need those goals, and those guys we're talking about there, they're all capable of providing those moments. Middlesbrough have just got to try and make sure that they can get at least one of them. As you say, they would like to.
Yeah, these Championship clubs scouring the Premier League loan market, mainly for strikers, it seems, at the minute. Not just Middlesbrough after Dwight Gale, West Brom, Forrest also mentioned for him as well. Well, I'm sure Balogun at Arsenal will have plenty of admirers as well. So yeah, I think all those players maybe playing in not getting much game time in the Premier League are going to be interested targets for these clubs in the Championship. So yeah, let's hope we have a busy January transfer window and not long to go now before that window does open. Just over 2 weeks, Dean. So once these clubs once these clubs get all these Christmas fixtures out of the way, all eyes will be on that January transfer window, and
Absolutely.
let's hope there is plenty of activity. Right, with that in mind, that's us here for another week on Touchline Talk. We'll be back next week for all the latest news and insight on the latest goings on.